Namaste.
Pranam Swamiji. Hari Om Swamiji.
Hari Om, everybody. Hope everybody is happy to join this webinar on happiness.
Very happy, Swamiji.
Good, keep it up. We will start within a minute. Hari Om, everybody. Hope everybody is happy to join this webinar on happiness.
Very happy to see you, Swamiji. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
All are celebrating Diwali. Very few attendants.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We begin here this evening's webinar on the pursuit of happiness. We are also calling this episode 7 of Understanding Hinduism, which is a series that we started some time back. For when we say we want to understand Hinduism, we mean a lot of things. Hindu rituals, Hindu concept of soul, Hindu concept of karma, the concept of Hinduism in worship, what is moksha in Hinduism, so on and so forth. Various mantras, we have seen some mantras, various important symbols, and we will also go into social systems and definition of duties of different people in different stations or different environments of their own. This evening, going by Indian time, we are going to look at pursuit of happiness from the point of view of Hindu philosophy. Now, it is indeed very sad that despite so much of growth, progress of science and technology, while the standard of living has risen for a large number of people, we cannot claim that humanity is happier than before. Quite possibly, humanity is less happy than even 10 years before. Therefore, this topic of happiness is of vital importance, for everybody finally wants happiness. The rich want happiness, the poor want happiness, and universally, wherever you go, people believe that happiness is in objects outside. That is the worldly viewpoint. Happiness is in objects outside. All of us, including ashrams and spiritual centers, acquire more and more objects. They gather gadgets. They fix air conditioners everywhere. They provide to themselves or to their members more and more comforts. And while that goes on one track, on the other, people are as unhappy as ever. We say objects, sometimes it may not be literally objects, but it may be a certain becoming. I want to become this or that. I want to sit on such and such chair. I want such and such designation after my name. I want to be something in the eyes of people. Thus, humanity pursues happiness through becoming. However, no matter what you become, the happiness that you may experience for a while very soon vanishes. Therefore, without spending more time on the 100 ways in which the world wants to be happy, where it fails, we plunge now into the Hindu philosophical view of happiness. In simplest terms, Hinduism says happiness is inside you. Happiness is not outside. Outside may at the most play a little role. It may to an extent facilitate, but really you get happy when you work on your own inside. In Hindu philosophical thought, you have simple levels as well as very high metaphysical levels. For example, in the Chandogya Upanishad of the Samaveda, the teacher in the 7th chapter makes an astounding declaration. There cannot be happiness in anything that is finite. Alpe sukham nasti. Yo vai bhuma tat sukham, he says. The student over there is Narada. The teacher is a rishi who ever remains young. That's again a fascinating idea we have in our scriptures. People like Sanat Kumara, people like Markandeya, and many others, they don't get old. They remain ever young. Sanat Kumara says, there cannot be lasting happiness in finite things. You must look for the infinite truth. But let's not go hurriedly to that high level where we discover the infinite, that is no other than Atmajnana or Brahmajnana and so on. Much before that, a Hindu philosophical view of you and me getting happy is it is not so much what you get or who treats you well and otherwise, but it is a matter of our own karma. Hinduism talks about the law of karma. It's called karma-siddhānta. I hope everybody is clear. Karma-siddhānta is totally a different thing as compared with karma yoga. Karma yoga is a spiritual practice where you do your duty without expecting or without insisting or without making a big issue of results. That's a sadhana. But karma siddhanta is very similar to what they say in the West, as you sow, so shall you reap. Therefore, on occasions, without any reason, we are happy, then we wonder, why am I so happy now? Why am I so relaxed and upbeat today from the morning? The explanation in Hindu philosophy is some punya karma has fructified, has matured into this experience of happiness. And sometimes you may say, no, 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 it is not my karma. Somebody came and gave me a wonderful gift. The Hindu philosophy would say, your punya karma made that person probably walk miles and miles to come to you and give you that gift, or treat you well, or be kind to you, be of help to you. We think that so and so was of great help to me and therefore I am happy. But making that person walk up to you and offer some help is the result of your punya karma. In fact, on the same note, we may say the Hindu philosophy says if you are suffering in some way, do not take it in any negative way. Take a deep breath and say, all right, I am unable to avoid this suffering, but this suffering, the good side of it is, this suffering is washing away some of my bad deeds or the results of bad deeds. My bad karma is causing this suffering, and through this suffering, that bad karma would be slowly written off. Like somebody serves a jail term for doing something wrong, maybe for 2 years he is in jail. When he comes out, he is free. The society, the police, the judicial system, and whatever other system, don't chase him anymore. Don't go after him. You did a mistake and you paid for it by spending 2 years in the jail. Now we welcome you back in our fold in a simple setting. Likewise, karma is said to be the cause of happiness. Karma is said to be the cause of sorrow. Therefore, on a practical plane, you and I every day should do punya karma. Pujya Swāmi Chinmayānandaji used to say that your past brings to you whatever you experience, but in the present, you have a choice. In the present, you can do something to reduce the effect of those past karmas. In a very witty manner, one of the sayings of Swami Chinmayanandaji goes, what you meet is your prārabdha, result of past karma. But how you meet it is your purushārtha. And at one place, he even went to the extent of saying, what you have is God's gift to you, and what you do with it is your gift to God, and do something with what you have that God should admire. God should raise your eyebrows. Wow. That is, when God gives us something, suppose we use it for punya karma. God is very happy. God will be pleasantly surprised. Rather than just enjoying some gift that He gave to us, we used it to serve others, let us say, in that fashion. So, okay. What you meet is your prārabdha. How you meet it is your purushārtha. And same Swamiji also said, he said, in this world, it seems all are unhappy. The poor are uncomfortably unhappy, and the rich are comfortably unhappy. With air conditioner and expensive cars and so much of bank balance and so much of access to pleasures and shopping and this and that, are the rich really happy? Every rich man or lady says there were times in his or her life when life looked so perfect. But then she or he confesses, then this happened or then that happened, my business crashed or something or the other. They look back with a sigh. Therefore, what a witty statement. The poor are uncomfortably unhappy and the rich are comfortably unhappy. They are both unhappy. Then who is happy? I believe there was a king who has some back pain, and Ayurveda, homeopathy, and many other systems failed one after another. his back pain would not go. And then a wise man came up with a solution. King, O king, if you wear the shirt of a truly happy man, then this back pain will go. And I'll not go long on that story. The king sent soldiers in all directions, and they did find after a lot of searching, because otherwise hardly anybody was happy. They thought the prime minister was happy. He confessed, no, you don't know my sorrow. The army general or the koshadhikari, treasurer, or the great scholar in his court, somebody who had written Mahakavyas, somebody who had invented things, bright, brilliant, famous, eminent people, the rich and famous people of the town, none of them was truly happy upon a little examination. Therefore, the soldiers had to go quite far. And in the forest, they found one man who was truly happy. Who was truly happy. He was actually raising his hands and singing a song, and there seemed not a trace of agitation on his face. The soldiers bowed down before him and said, "We have been looking for a truly happy man. It seems you are truly happy, are you?" He said, "Yes, I am supremely happy. Why should I have any sorrow? It's a long time since I have come to this forest, and I don't even remember my sorrowful days. I've been very happy for a long time now." Then they folded their hands and asked him, "Can you give us your shirt? For our king's disease will be cured by wearing the shirt of a happy man." And the story ends on an, irony. The irony of the story here is the man who was truly happy didn't have a shirt at all. He was shirtless. He was bare top. However, we have a knack of making otherwise unhappy stories into a happy one. The moment the soldiers had found this truly happy man in the forest, over there in the palace, the king, it says, the story goes, was supremely happy. He was free of all back pain. So, though it's a story that we tell children, it deserves to be shared with adults also. And there was this great author, Bhartrihari, who also was a king at one time, but he gave away his kingdom to his brother or something like that, walked away to the jungle. And then he wrote one Niti Shatakam, second Shringara Shatakam, and third Vairāgya Shatakam. 100 verses on detachment, on Vairāgya. One of the lines in that Vairāgya Shataka, in verse 31, Bhoge, Roga Bhayam, Kule, Chuti Bhayam, etc. starts. The last line is the punch line. Sarvam vastu bhayanvitam bhuvi, nrinam vairagyameva abhayam. Take whatever you want. Hold anything in your hands. Possess anything that you wanted to possess. Very soon, rather than giving unalloyed happiness to you, that object, that company, that organization, that chair, whatever it be, will give you fear. And where there is fear, where is happiness? And Bhartrihari concludes, Bhuvi, on this earth, Vairagyam eva abhayam. You must, through viveka, through right discernment, through training yourself to not chase passing pleasures and always settle for something of lasting value, by such self-training, you may come upon true detachment. Then you will find happiness. So friends, Hindu philosophy talks about happiness on two levels. The highest level is the self-realization, Atma-jnana, Atma-sakshatkara, or Brahma-jnana, or Brahma-sakshatkara, all that. But everybody is not fit or not ready for that. Everybody cannot make head or tail of this Atma or Brahma. They have more misconceptions than a trace of right understanding. Therefore, this self-realization is very elusive for common people. So, what do common people do? The Hindu philosophy says we have yogas for that. Karma yoga, bhakti yoga, raja yoga, jnana yoga. Train your senses. Eknath Ishwaran, who wrote some popular works in very good English and with the thoughts he shared also being great, wrote or advised training of senses as one of the 8-point program he advised or he came out with for daily spirituality. There's a wonderful book by him, Meditation, an 8-point program for daily spirituality. In that 8-point program of daily spirituality, one is train your senses. Can you stop one bite before you are full? He asks. And if you are fond of sweets, take a sweet, but can you stop after taking one piece? And so on. He doesn't advise the asceticism of the Himalayas. Keep away from coffee or tea, keep away from sweets or good music. No, he doesn't ask you to keep away. He says, can you train your senses, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin, and so on, from any indulgence? Enjoy, but know when to step back. A Kannada poet, D.V. Gundappa, writes in his Mankuti Mana Kagga, are you a friend of flowers? He asks. If you are truly a friend of flowers, go near and enjoy the fragrance. For heaven's sake, don't crush it. Kusuma sakanem ni hisukade musadanu. That is the expression. Are you a friend of flowers? Smell it without hurting the flower. Like that, we can enjoy pleasures of the world without going overboard in the process, damaging everything or even relationships. So, most important in this presentation is the Hindu advice on happiness is initially live going by some noble values. Train your senses, study a little of uh, the spiritual literature, where also there are very many stages. You don't have to start with Brahmajnana. First start with how moderation helps, how some yogic exercises, how some pranayama exercises, how right food, right way, right time to sleep, how contact with nature, and so on, how all these help, you must know, and how some mantras may be used for training the mind. Repeat mantra. In olden days, a large number of Hindus used to chant Gayatri mantra 108 times in the morning, 108 times in the evening, and so on. That is an example. It's not Brahmajnana. Much before you come to Brahmajnana, there are exercises and disciplines by which the mind is made quieter and happiness gets nearer to you and nearer to you without involving money or sense object. So we have lot of advice. We are mainly students of the Vedanta. In this audience, the majority are Vedanta students. Therefore, it is appropriate that I refer to some instances in the Upanishads because Vedanta is primarily Upanishads. Vedanto nama Upanishad Pramanam, says Swami Sadananda in his very popular book, Vedanta Saraha. Vedanta is mainly the revelations of Upanishads. Then in addition, various other works like Atma Bodha or Tattva Bodha or Panchadashi or Viveka Chudamani and so on, all of them speak pretty much the same truths conveyed by the Upanishads. So one of the Upanishads, namely Taittiriya Upanishad, In its Brahmanandavalli, you see, Brahma Ananda. Ananda is happiness, our topic in this session. Brahma Ananda, happiness of that supreme truth, happiness that becomes ours upon knowing the supreme truth. Ananda Mimansa. Towards the end of the Brahmananda Valli, we have levels of happiness. There is a man who is well built, and his happiness includes, let's say, there is a man who is learned, dispassionate, and has a certain vision of Brahman. That person's happiness includes, to begin with, a healthy man who is rich, who is efficient, who is well focused in his work, and so on. So a Brahmajnani has happiness that includes the happiness of a healthy young man. The Brahmajnani's happiness includes another happiness which is 100 times the earlier category. And then a third category which is again 100 times. That means multiplied by 10 to the power of 4, then 10 to the power of 8, and it goes on like that. Finally, 10 to the power 6, 10 to the power 8, and so on. 10 to the power, you have 13 levels, each level 100 times more. 10 to the power 26 or something like that. So much is the happiness of someone who is Shrotriyasya Akamahatasya, who knows the truth of the Vedas, who is free from desires, and so on. In Atma Bodha, a Prakarana Grantha of Vedānta, generally attributed to Adi Shankaracharya, though sometimes scholars say it is written by somebody else, it is said the happiness of a Brahmajnani is such that a little part of it is what makes Indra's happiness, and so on. The Devatas in the heavens are known to be very happy. They have everything available. So what problem? No problem should be there in their life. But their happiness is only a fraction of the happiness of Brahmajnana. In Mahabharata, there is the great story of Yayati. Yayati was a king, and who was so much given to sense pleasures. And as time passed, he became old. But he wanted to enjoy much more of life, much more of this world. And he requested his sons to give to him their youthfulness for a while. He had 8 sons. One after another refused to give their youthfulness. There was, I believe, some technology whereby the age of 2 people can be exchanged. An 80-year-old man can exchange his age with the 20-year-old son of his, let us say. So the 80-year-old becomes 20-year-old, the 20-year-old becomes 80-year-old, for some time at least. Finally, the last son, Puru, gladly says, Father, you are my father. When you ask for something, there's no question of my saying no. Take my youthfulness. And Yayati takes the youthfulness, the young age of Puru, and goes to heaven with some powers that he had, enjoys everything. And when he comes back, he is disgusted with everything. And he makes a powerful statement. Swami Vidyaranya quotes it in the 7th chapter of Panchadashi. Na jatu kama kamana upabhogena shamyati havisha krishnavartmeva bhuyeva avivardate. More we enjoy, for a while we may be happy, but then we want more. We want more of pleasure, more of enjoyment. Therefore, it's better we train ourselves to slowly become independent of sense objects. That's what Yayati says. Of course, he gives back the youthfulness to Puru. He takes the old age, which was his own before, back to himself. then goes to forest for tapas. In the Vedanta, by the way, unalloyed happiness, the purest of happiness, is often talked about in the context of sushupti, that is deep sleep. Every one of us, for some hours in every 24 hours, go to deep sleep. Some people get deep sleep in my lectures also. I'm happy that at least that benefit they have by humor or seriously. Sushupti, dreamless deep sleep, is said to be unalloyed happiness. Nothing mixed there. There's no vasana, no ignorance, no. You are with the pure self. In fact, you are the pure self all the time. In Jagrata and waking state, there are certain errors that happen. And in the error, what you see and you, the seer, are integral parts of that error. That's a bit complex philosophy. We'll not go more into it. But let's take a quick look before concluding this presentation at what Sri Ramana Maharshi had to say about happiness. Maharshi Ramana, the sage of Arunachala, who lived for 54 years in Tiruvannamalai at the foot of the mountain Arunachala, said with regard to happiness, the truth is, every time desires get fulfilled, the mind turns to its source and experiences only that happiness which is natural to the self. Suppose you are very fond of champakali. Champakali is a sweet. Some of you may not know it. Even if you have eaten, you may not know the name. Champakali. So just offhand example, there's nothing so special about champakali. But take the example of champakali. Ordinarily, we think when we take champakali and put it in our mouth, it is champakali that gives us happiness. Maharshi Ramana's explanation is, you had a desire for champakali, your mind was agitated. When champakali was given to you, the mind became calm. And mind becoming calm turns towards its source, and the happiness it actually experiences is not from champakali, it is through coming in contact with the pure self, its own source. Mind rises from this pure self, goes back to the pure self. Therefore, Maharshi Ramana says on the website ramanamaharshi.org, every day you can find a new quote of Sri Ramana Maharshi. By sheer coincidence, this morning I opened the website of Sri Ramana Maharshi, which is www.sriramana.org. This quote was there. The truth is that every time our desires are fulfilled, the mind, turning to its source, experiences only that happiness which is natural to the self. In addition, you have in the Bhartrihari Upanishad, Yajnavalkya says to his beloved wife Maitreyi that things seem to become dear to us. He uses the word priya. Something seems to be very dear to us, and we imagine it is because of some intrinsic worth of that thing. That is not the truth. There is a punchline in that very famous dialogue between Maitreyi and Yajnavalkya. The punchline goes like this: Atmanastu kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati. It is actually the happiness of the Atma which temporarily was as though invested in that object, and then it appears that the object is giving us happiness. But we only made it a source of happiness. Happiness is within us. When we made Champakali a source of our happiness through some mischief of the mind, then yes, Champakali gives us happiness. Our mind changes, our tastes change, our conditioning changes, our upbringing brings about some differences in us. We who at one time might have enjoyed Champakali a lot, might not want even half a piece of it at another time. There was a great poet in Kannada literature, Kuvempu, who was a Jnanapith Award winner. I have not read much of him, nor do I know much of his literature, but he is a household name. He, in fact, wrote a autobiography. He was a living legend, those days, but now he's no more. He wrote a autobiography, and if I put it in English, the title went, you know, Traveling in the Boat of Memories. Traveling on the Boat of Memories. That was the title of his autobiography. I read the first 10 pages. I generally read 10 or 15 pages of a book and then plan to read rest of it another day. Now maybe next life I will read all the books, other part, remaining part. But in those 10 or 15 first pages of Kuvempu, K.V. Puttappa was his real name. He writes, one day when he was 45, 50 or so, suddenly he takes his wife to task. He says, in our childhood, our mother used to make something and that was so delicious. None of what you prepare is as delicious as what my mother used to make. The wife, with all love and regard, gets quite annoyed. Says, tell me what she was making, we'll make it today. And the wife collects authentic information about a certain preparation Puttappa's mother used to make, 45 years ago. And she makes it exactly as per the recipe. And when Kuvempu takes a little of it, I don't remember the name of the recipe or the preparation, he takes a little of it, he says, yes, this is exactly how my mother was making. Nice, you could make it. But he takes a little more and a little more. He doesn't enjoy it at all. He makes a face. Then he says, oh my God, how could I forget the truth that our tastes change? And also, there's another dimension. When Kuvempu, for that matter, you and I, were, let us say, 5-year-old, 10-year-old, we haven't seen much of the world. We are not exposed to very many recipes, food items. Whatever our mother, sisters make and give, that is heaven. Like if I may add an example quickly, when I was growing up, elementary school or high school, in my small town, that high school where I went had a certain playground. That was the largest playground I had seen in life in those days. Later, I moved to bigger cities. I went to Bangalore and Chennai, Delhi, and then much later, of course, abroad. And then, after some years, I went back to my village. I see the same playground of our government high school. It looked so small. It looked very small. Had it shrunk by 1 square foot or 100 square feet or to 1000 square feet? No. It was the same playground. But I, being exposed to much larger stadiums and playgrounds, football, cricket, etc., in my eyes now, this no more was looking big. That's what happened to Kuvempu. His wife made authentic preparation, whatever he had mentioned, the way his mother used to make. But Kuvempu's tongue, his mind, his senses, his entire being had gone through a change. Therefore, Maharshi Ramana is so true, or Yajnavalkya is so true. Something seems to be so dear to us in a certain conditioning of our mind. When our mental conditioning changes, the old thing doesn't give us any happiness, something new gives happiness. This is a bitter truth. Lastly, in Taittiriya Upanishad, it is said the Atma is of the nature of rasa. Raso vai saha rasagam hevayam labdva anandi bhavati. Again, Brahmananda Valli, the second chapter of Taittiriya Upanishad. Before closing, really, let me quickly share with you an equation that Pujya Swāmi Chinmayānandaji made. He said, happiness is equal to equation. Happiness is equal to number of desires fulfilled divided by number of desires entertained. So you have 5 desires fulfilled. How many desires did you have? 10. Then 5 by 10 is 50%. Another person also has got 5 desires fulfilled, but he had entertained 100 desires. 5 out of 100 is only 5%. Both have fulfilled 5 desires, but for one person, 5 out of 10, for another person, 5 out of 100. Now, one last thought. What about the denominator? Suppose the denominator reduces from 100 to 50, 50 to 10, 10 to 5, and then there is somebody who has no desire at all. Mathematically, when the denominator becomes 0, then the number becomes infinite. Therefore, the key to maximum happiness is not suppressing desires, but through viveka, through a little more well-lived life, mature life, through a little more of exercise of viveka, you and I can change ourselves and then arrive at a highly receptive mind to that extraordinary truth. What is that extraordinary truth? We are ourselves of the nature of happiness. In this way, on the high plateau of Vedanta and on simpler terms, Hindu philosophy has much to say about happiness. These days, I believe happiness is offered as a course in many universities around the world. A course in graduate level or undergraduate level on happiness. And large numbers of young men and women attend that course on happiness, note down, pass exams, get credits, and so on. It would be well in place to include some chapters from Hindu philosophy in those courses on happiness in the academia. Let me pause here and I will be happy. I will experience some happiness if some of you have questions to ask or comments to make. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. So here there are already some comments. Ram's iPhone. Yeah. Probably it is, doesn't matter. Maybe it's Ramnath Pai in Florida. Does it mean happiness belongs to Atmananda only and it shines when the mind is Shanta? Yes. Is sorrow, does sorrow mean obstruction to the flow of this Atma? Yes. So there is no sorrow. You are always Ananda only. Yes. Yes, doctor. It is, that is the theory in Hinduism. You are always Ananda. Therefore, I called it a mind's mischief. The mind creates a mischief, and as though in the Vedanta, the Atma can never be obstructed really, but as though it is obstructed. The flow of Atmananda is obstructed by erroneous perception. You take the rope to be a snake and you have fear. There's an erroneous perception. In that simple example, it is outside. Rope is outside, snake also is outside. But in our case, not only what you see, but a certain idea of who we are is involved. Therefore, Maharshi Ramana focuses on who am I. The idea of who I am is integral to the error which causes sorrow. Where there is no error, where there is only right seeing facilitated by Vedanta, not only what you see changes, you, the one who sees, changes. That is, the false self drops. So all three things that you said, number one, happiness belongs to Atma only. Number two, sorrow is obstruction to flow of Atma. And therefore, really speaking, there is no sorrow really. Ananda alone is. All three are true. That's the Vedanta. Let me see. Dr. Sonpal says, the art of happiness, a handbook of living for living, the art of happiness at work, the art of happiness in the troubled world, three books by His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Howard C. Cutler are worth reading. Thank you for sharing this information. Participants, if you are inclined, please note down this comment by Dr. Sonpal. Yes. Right now, there seems to be no other comment or question. Else,
Swamiji, Hari Om, Swami Subramaniam.
yeah, now, yes,
yeah.
we have to give chance to one moment. Let me open the gallery. Yes,
Yeah.
Subramaniam is always happy to ask a question.
Yeah,
Maybe one
more
of, I think you found a new way of finding happiness. Ask a question and enjoy.
enjoy.
All
Thanks
right,
to you,
Subramaniam.
Vijay. Enjoy interaction with you. More of a comment, but on a practical level, for ordinary people like us, our journey towards happiness is enjoying the simple pleasures of life in freedom, right? You refer to Eknatheshwaran, So detachment is not a negative thing. It is more a positive. You don't stay away completely from everything, but enjoy in freedom. And the other thing is, maximum happiness comes when you give happiness to others. That is nishkama karma.
Well said.
So those two principles, if we utilize, maybe lead you on the path of happiness. That's what I deduct from your discourse.
Beautiful, beautiful. To reword them, if we rightly understand detachment, it is nothing negative, it is rather positive. And the second point he made is, in giving happiness to others, our own happiness increases. The first point is going about things of the world. We don't have to run away from them, but we can be amidst them with a degree of detachment, which means we don't become dependent. Very well said. Thank you for sharing those two thoughts.
Thank you.
Then somebody else wants to voice their opinion or question. Subramaniam began saying, for common people like us, we are all common people really. So for common people, the worldly settings appear very real. Suppose you are going for an evening walk and you really find a piece of gold by the roadside. You can't say, I am a Vedanti, I won't pick it up. You will check it and get it checked with a jeweler. And if he says, this is pure gold, my God, this is so many grams and it's so, then you don't throw it, saying, being a Vedanti, I decided to go and throw it back at the place where I found it. No, you won't. So that's what I mean. You and I are caught quite a bit in notions of value that is there in not only gold or objects, but positions. Positions. Like for somebody like me, let us say, a reputed university. I was at Duke University in September. Suppose tomorrow I'm just, joking. Tomorrow I get a letter from the management of Duke University. When you came and spoke here, a lot of students enjoyed it. Maybe invite you for a series of 6 talks in our campus, sponsored by the management itself. Will I just drop it? I will cancel everything else and fly and go and give those 6 talks. So you in your way, they in their way, I in my way, all of us have values. We value certain things and we don't value certain other things. We regard certain engagements as a waste of time. We regard certain engagements as precious. So that being the case, We are far away from that Brahma Bhava, where Gita says, Samaloshtāshma Kanchana, a lump of mud or clay and a stone and gold are equal to that wise person. We are far away from that. So why I'm interjected or interrupted is in this frame of reference, where let us admit we do have some values for various things. We have to work out sensible ways to developing detachment, enjoy, but don't violate certain principles of dharma, what you regard as morally right. Think on them, sort it out, discuss with somebody. Don't go by mere impulses. Or if so far you had gone by impulses, no problem. What happened is over. Now examine, double check your impulses. So there is a whole science of living rightly on a lower plane. This Brahma Satyam Jaganmatya is a very high plane. But living rightly on the lower plane then prepares us to move slowly towards the higher plane. Ramji says again, when you are Atmananda or Purnata, time to time, then only love flows. Thank you for sharing that too. Correct. That's an important point in Vedanta because some people misunderstand. Vedantins discover their inner happiness and they don't care for anybody then. Their job is done. Why should they care? No. As what Dr. Ram has said, when we are into Atmananda, love flows from us. For the simple reason that we don't depend on things as much as before. And when our dependence on a certain or external object reduces, more easily and gladly we will share things with others. Therefore, we will be serving them with love and so on. And one more comment by him is, Bhagavan in Gita calls value and virtues as jnana only. True. In the 13th chapter, after giving 20 values, amanitvam, adambitvam, etc., Sri Krishna says, etad jnanam iti proktam. He doesn't say this is jnana sadhanam. This is jnanam. Etad jnanam iti proktam ajnanam yad ataha anyatha. If you are humble, that's a sign of your wisdom. If you are clean outside and inside, it's a sign of your wisdom. It's not, otherwise we say it's a stepping stone. But Sri Krishna praises ethical living as not stepping stone. It itself is wisdom, he says. So that's very appropriate again. Okay, one last question or comment. There are one or two other opening batsmen here today. They are not batting. How about Praveena? Don't have to. I'm not forcing you to ask. Geeta Nair is here. Rekha Ramani may speak up. Long time since we had an interaction.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Hari Om. Very good.
I just wanted to know the meaning of purushārtha.
Oh, yeah, good. I didn't translate it. Sorry. Purushārtha is self-effort. Purushārtha in that context is self-effort. So when Swami Chinmayānandaji said, what you meet with life is your prārabdha, but how you meet is your purushārtha. What he means is how you meet it, crying and weeping or maintaining a certain balance and finding out what is the best possible and applying yourself to that best possible option. That is purushārtha. In what sense? You are putting your possible effort. Maybe you can put in effort of 2 cents. Sometimes people say, right, this is my 2 cents. Maybe just a little. Just a little. But doesn't matter. You did like that squirrel in the Ramayana story. It could carry only a few particles of sand. It said, oh, no problem. I'll do what is possible by me. So, purushārtha is here not one of the 4 goals. See, Somewhere else, purushārtha is dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. They are called 4 purushārthas. But in this quote of Swamiji, well in line with scriptures, what you face is your prārabdha, but facing it with certain dignity, certain calmness, certain bravery, certain courage, etc., would be a higher form of purushārtha. Purushārtha is what you can do, what you will
Okay.
do. Good
Thank you,
question. I'm sure
Swamiji.
many others also got things clear now.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Wonderful. With that, let's close this. Actually, I was to talk on something more complex, but I was a little busy with the camp and other things. So we took a simpler topic, but I trust that everybody found it useful and interesting. Next episode 8 of Hinduism will go into a little bit of less known domains of Hinduism. All right. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Hari
Hari
Om.
Om, Swamiji.
Namaste to everybody.